Did you know that the first EGX took place at the Old Truman Brewery in London as part of the London Games Festival in 2008 and was attended by 4,000 people? You're listening to the Xbox Hub Podcast, the official podcast of the TheXboxHub.com. For all the latest Xbox news, reviews, videos and opinions, make sure you visit the TheXboxHub.com. But for now, settle down, get comfy, and open your ears for some podcast delights. Hello, and welcome to the Xbox Hub Official Podcast, episode number 99. My name's Gareth Briney, I'm your host. I've got no one on my virtual left. I've got no one on my virtual right, no one on my virtual opposite. I'm on my own. What was meant to happen this week? It was meant to be at EGX, myself and Richard Dobson, a few others, doing a live podcast from them, but I couldn't go due to unforeseen circumstances. So what are we going to do? Well, the good news is Richard Dobson, our elite reporter at the scene, was there, and I spoke to him earlier all about it. Hello, Richard. How are you?
Hello. Coming to you live from EGX 2021.
This is great, isn't it? This feels like professional. Feels like we're doing satellite links, like the Olympics or something.
Does a little bit.
Sorry, Richard, I couldn't be there, but things took a turn. But so you've been there now on all day Thursday.
Yes.
And Friday today.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not here at the weekend, so I've crammed everything into those 1.5 days so far.
And now, where are you recording now? Where are you talking to me from?
I am in the main corridor bit that runs through the middle, but I'm nearer the entrance where the DLR station is. Because a lot of people coming in now are coming in through different entrances, like from the coach entrance and further down. So this is actually the quiet area.
Right. Let's just talk first of all about EGX this year. Does it feel busy? Is it a busy atmosphere? Is it busier than normal?
No, I mean, this is my first one, but from hearing what other people have been saying, it's absolutely dead in comparison.
Oh, really? I
think I was queuing 10 minutes before we got in.
Wow.
Which, yeah, a lot of people in the queue were like, it's never like this, it's never like that. I've not really had to wait any period of time to play a game. But to be honest, I think it's much better this way. Some people have been saying it's not the same, literally crammed into a massive hall full of people that you can't move and stuff like that. But no, this for me is ideal.
Yeah, it sounds like heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is normally you are queuing in that big kind of like long queue. And when we get press passes, don't we? I mean, even with press passes, you get a bit of a clearer view avenue through. It's normally been 40 minutes, 45-minute wait. Oh, Richard, what's that? A plane?
That is a plane.
Oh, great! This is really exciting.
Okay. That's proof that I'm definitely here.
Are you in the building? Is it this plane in there?
That's me. I'm not stood next to the runway as it might sound like, but I am in the building.
I'm going to ask you. We're going to get onto games in a second. Where are you? Are you enjoying this bit of London? It's a strange bit of London because I'm a Londoner, and you're at the Excel, which was the one in the Nightingale hospitals for a while during COVID.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and now Excel is in this kind of strange little area that's kind of all new build in the Docklands of London. Well, and you're staying now there, are you? So are you having a good time?
Yeah, my hotel's only a 10-minute walk from here, and this is the first time I've been to this part of London. And I went to Greenwich last night, which I'd never been to before, but it's a side of London that I appreciate a lot more, and it's given me a new insight into London. Previously, us and others in the Xbox Hub have expressed our dislike for London.
God,
but no, this sorry, but this area of London is a lot better.
Yeah,
it's not full of the hustle and bustle that you get in the central areas, and everything almost seems a little bit more relaxed. It's still a bizarre concept to me that places are open late and there's still masses of people walking the streets 8-9 o'clock in the evening. That's a bizarre concept to me. But
Is that real? Is that true? Is it just goes quiet where you are at night?
in Leeds,
Yeah.
So not really. You don't really get that much.
Right.
I mean, obviously, where you've got bars and restaurants and stuff in a few of like the little towns on the outskirts, you get that. But no, it just seemed everywhere I looked, there were still people milling about, and even at the river and Cutty Sark, it was still quite busy there. There's another plane coming, FYI.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just show this all. See if we can all guess what the plane is. That's a Boeing 747 going to Kuala Lumpur. I guess I'm guessing something that
sounds nice. Nice. Whatever.
Richard, what should we go through? What you've been doing? What you've seen?
In EGX.
Yeah.
So there's not that many new games here this time around from what I've seen, but certainly there's a few booths. So I started the day off yesterday at Super Rare Games, who primarily deal with Switch games, but they'll take an existing game that's been released digitally and then do a small run of physical copies. And they had a couple of games to play there. They had one called Grapple Dog, which is currently Steam only, I think. But they had a competition there that we were playing on the Switch, so I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility they will get ported to the Switch.
Right.
That was a 2D platformer where you play as a dog that's got a grapple hook, which is where the name Grapple Dog comes from, I suppose. But that was really good. So they were running a competition on that to a time trial, basically. And speaking to a couple of the guys there, they said they'd been running it on Steam for a couple of weeks and it had gotten really intense. And I think the best time was 1 minute, under 1.5 minutes, under 90 seconds. And some of the times that we were achieving on the booth were closer to 3 minutes. So there's people out there that seem to be taking this a lot more seriously.
Right. Okay.
I think the prize for that is you get a statue of yourself in the final release of Grapple.
Wow, so that's good. That's great.
See why people are taking it so seriously.
Yeah.
But that looked a lot of fun. Really, really simple concepts, but some of the level designs that they've come up with, even in this one level that we got to see, were really impressive. And they were saying, they've seen things that even they couldn't comprehend seeing. So I think that's exciting.
Good. That sounds good.
They also had one there called Unrailed, which is that's how they've released that as one of their limited edition physical copies already. That is essentially Overwatch with trains. So you're having to build the track that this train keeps moving down, working as a team. And I played that as a single player, but it's up to 4 players co-op. And actually, the AI companion that I was given for that was actually really helpful.
So what are you doing? You're just building tracks as a train's moving along?
You have to mine stone and chop down wood and sort of use this train to then you put the materials on the train and then it'll automatically build these tracks for you. Wow. Then you need to take the tracks off and build them. But the train catches fire, so you need to put stuff out with water and stuff. And there's an endless mode that they were saying. So as the level progresses, it's also like an isometric point of view. If you leave your materials behind, you can't go back for them as the train moves along. So they were saying that the people were leaving axes and their bucket for the water behind. And as they were doing that, they then had no tools to sort of make new materials.
Right. Wow. And when is that coming? What is that coming to console?
No, that was on Switch, I believe. That's out now.
Unrailed. Okay.
So they had 2 games there. They've also got some stuff for sale, some of their limited edition copies. So I'm tempted to go back to them towards the end of the day and pick some of that up.
Oh, good. Have you got a spending limit?
I didn't put a spending limit on because I knew I'd only disappoint myself.
Good. That's super rare. I like that. Unrailed and Dog Wrangler. No, Dog Grappler.
Grapple
Dog, sorry. Dog Grappler is a whole different game.
Yeah. That'd be the sequel.
Yeah.
So yeah, then they had a little booth there. Team 17 are here as well. They've got a much bigger presence. They had quite a few games on offer actually. Some that had already come out, such as Overcooked and Moving Out, were here with plenty of people milling around those. But after my experience with Overcooked during lockdown, I never want to touch that game again. But I did play there. They had a game called Honey, I Joined a Cult, which I think is PC only at the moment, but I've put a word in for them to release it on consoles because that's brilliant fun. It's basically like an old school strategy sim builder, like your theme parks or your theme hospitals, but you're building a cult to get people in. And I don't think it uses the term brainwash, but that's essentially what you're trying to do with these people. But you then need to make sure that their needs are met. So there's this sim builder element to it, but it's also got like the bars, from The Sims, where you keep your hunger and your bladder bars topped up and stuff like that.
And it's not. I'm getting confused. Is it in the prison architecture sort of template or?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay, that I do know. Yeah. Okay. Great.
So yeah, it's that sort of similar thing, but that has a really, really good sense of humor to it. And even in the tutorial I was playing, I was chuckling away at some of the stuff that was being brought up. So
that's coming to console. They're just saying.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I can't see. I mean, they've got those games are really popular, aren't they, on console?
Yeah.
Those. I can't remember the other ones. There's a Walking Dead one, isn't it? Yeah. So they're going that will come. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's fun. I heard there's a lot of people really excited about that on PC. I've heard a lot of people streaming that as well. So yeah, you enjoyed that.
Good fun is that one. They've also got a game called Thymesia, which is their first Souls-like game that was here as well. It's done by I think they're a Taiwanese developer, and they're publishing it on Steam, which I had a quick go of, and it's the same thing with any Souls-like game. You rubbish the first time you play it, but then I did manage to finish the demo. Thankfully, I got to the first boss, which is way overpowered and it's designed to kill you. And then it said, "Oh, thanks for playing the demo." So I was pleased I managed to get to the end of it.
Yeah, that
has an unusual thing. So we were told beforehand that you need patience with this game. Which I then tried to do, but it never works that way. So you'll attack an enemy, and then as you sort of deplete their health bar, this blue portion of their health bar will appear, and this is almost like an area where they can heal up if you don't keep attacking them.
Wow.
So you then got another ability where you can, I can't remember the exact phrase for it, but that if you attack them with a different attack, you can wipe away that blue bar, and that becomes then your mana.
Okay.
To do magic and stuff, which was unusual, but it was sort of, I felt it was going against the whole have patience with this game, because it was like if you didn't attack them, then their health would just keep regenerating this blue bit.
Right.
So
complicated. Hard.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you did well.
Hard. But I enjoyed it. I think I would do better in that game than I would do in actual Dark Souls with a bit of practice.
And is that coming to console?
Again, I've put a good word in. They've sort of said, it's like anything else nowadays. It's just easier to put it on Steam first and then then work on consoles later. So I think I think I would expect to see it on consoles at some point. But it's coming to Steam, I think the 8th of December. So that's in the final stages now, and then maybe next year.
We review games, don't we, that have been on Steam for 2 or 3 years before they come over. It feels like, it's a good little testing point, isn't it? Some games that we review on Steam, you think, how did it work on Steam for 2 years? Yeah.
The producer was really, really open about saying, it's just there's far fewer hoops to jump through on Steam.
Yeah.
And anything that you submit to consoles has to go through their QA and stuff. Right. Which I guess sometimes we take for granted when it's like, why don't you just put this on console?
Yeah. No, exactly. There's all sorts of problems at the moment. There's a few games going into the wrong place. We've had a few games that have gone into a sort of it's been classed as an app on the Microsoft console instead of a...
Yeah.
It's all a nightmare. Great, that's good. Any more from Team 17?
There was one more that I quickly played called Batora Last Haven, which reminded me a lot of Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Oh.
But specifically one of the DLCs. So I don't know if you remember that they had a top-down DLC that was like a dungeon crawler.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that, like that. So you were traveling through this world, and then you jump through this portal, and then you were tasked with completing a puzzle that involved rolling a ball around and physics and stuff. And as much as I enjoyed Immortals Phoenix Rising, I'm not wanting to play another game like that so soon.
Fair enough.
Good. It's very frustrating.
Is that coming to console? That's all I keep asking. That's all my question is that coming to console?
I believe that is coming to console. I couldn't get a definite answer from a couple of people that I asked at the booth. But yeah, I played with a controller,
right?
Which might not guarantee it, but it sounds promising.
Good. Where are you taking me next on this kind of joyride ride EGX? I like it.
Next, there was a booth for Chorus Worldwide that are publishing a few games next year. They announced a lot of stuff earlier this week, and some of it was playable here for the first time. So one of those was ROM, Read-Only Memory Neurodiver, which is a sequel to 2064 Read-Only Memories that came out a year or two ago.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, it was on Xbox, and this one's coming to consoles as well. So I played a bit of that, which was like it's like a cyberpunk narrative, but then in this demo, I had to help out someone that had forgotten their login password, and then you basically attach the Cthulhu-like alien to their arm, and it dives into their memories and sort of tries to trigger what their password was, which I think was was like the intro to this game, but I imagine it goes a lot deeper than trying to help people remember lost passwords.
I need someone to tell me my passwords. That's all I get.
It just sounds quite useful.
Yeah.
But that looked good. I think it was quite a pixel art game. But yeah, I think, like I say, it's a sequel, but having played that, I'm more interested in finding out what the original was like. And then also there, I played I think again, it was the intro to Coffee Talk episode 2.
Oh, you love Coffee Talk, don't you?
I do. Yeah. So I was really excited to hear that this one was here, because it got announced a few months ago that they were doing a sequel, but this was the first time the Wednesday it got announced for coming to consoles. And they said it was going to be here this week, so I made sure I played that. And that was just like getting back together with old friends, basically. Opens up with a returning character, and then introduces a couple more. But it's how these characters. So that the character it introduced was a human, and then it brought a satyr in, which I think is a human crossed with a goat. And then there was a female banshee that all come into this like alternate universe Seattle coffee house. And it does sound utterly bizarre, but the conversations that they have with each other are just like the most human conversations ever. So
And is it the first game was just people coming into a coffee shop, wasn't it? It didn't go into the strange world. No, yeah.
No. There was these other world characters there. There were orcs and werewolves and stuff in that one.
That's right.
But it's just so this demo that they had here. They were discussing. One of them was like an influencer, and he was trying to suggest to someone else that they should be an influencer. She's like, no, I tried this and I got shot down, and I don't like you suggesting that I should be. And then there was a lot of backstory introduced in this one. So they were saying that what was it? So there's like 6 races now that have been widely recognised as free thinking races, and the other 2 races weren't there, and it just felt a bit like if you were to apply that to a real world situation, it would bring in elements of racism and people being mistreated simply because they're a different race and stuff like that. And I think Coffee Talk does a really, really good way of presenting these real world problems in ways that might seem unusual, but you can ultimately fully relate to them. And that's what I really liked about it. And it seems to be going deeper with it this time.
Great. Well, I can hear music in the background. I like it.
Yeah, the music's just started up again.
Yeah, good. That's all right. We like it.
I think the last one that I played was a game called Harp Song. So this is by, let me get this right, it's by the National Film and Television School Games. So they look like they've got a gaming division now opening up. And this was, the demo that I played was very, very pretty. I think that this is coming to consoles, but it's a long way off, is this one now.
Right.
But you're wandering through Ireland, so it's set in the Republic of Ireland, and it's all inspired by Irish mythology. So you're wandering through, and it's very, very beautiful. Like, you get to see the Irish coastline and stuff like that. But then you get attacked by these tree-looking things, and I can't remember the name of it. The guy did it, but
yeah,
I'm not as clued up on my Irish mythology, unfortunately. But he was saying this is going to be like a God of War style of game. So there was no combat in this demo, but he was saying, we've just made a start on the combat now. And once we get that nailed down, then we can start building out the rest of the world. So like I say, that's a long way off. There's only 2 of them, and they've been working on it for about 8 months.
Right.
So that one's a long way away, but that one's definitely coming to consoles.
That always really excites me when you meet the people who are really early in development in the national. So the last one I went to, there's a whole sort of row of those kind of games that have just started something, and they're just showing sort of a glimpse of an idea, and I think that's really exciting, especially when you see it 3 years down the line or something.
Yeah, you can be at EGX 2024 and see it again. I remember playing this.
Yeah.
But he was immensely passionate about it, and I think it's, like I say, it's a long way off, but this one to keep an eye out for.
Great.
They were the main games that I got to play.
Well, that's good. What's that, a werewolf?
some kid laughing. There was just a few other bits that I got to sort of see whilst I was mooching around today and yesterday. There was Crisis. They had 4 Crisis booths.
Right.
And the remaster looks absolutely incredible. I mean, I would argue that the Crisis games don't really need remastering because they'll still more than look good enough by today's standards. But they look gorgeous.
Cool.
I watched yesterday. I watched the cosplay competition.
Oh. Did you win?
I didn't know. Unfortunately, I didn't enter.
Right.
I was sat in the audience. It was very bizarre, though. There was a quite a big crowd, to be fair, all waiting there at 3:00, and then 3 people came out in costume, and that was it. and he was like, this is such a bad turnout. I can
Oh,
see a lot of
right.
people in cosplay that haven't got up, but we need you here tomorrow.
Wow.
And I don't want to. I mean, they weren't very good.
No.
If I'm being honest.
Oh.
There was one that was dressed like Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
And I guess you could put a traffic cone on your head and do a better job.
Oh, no. Well, they've made a big effort. They've made an effort.
Yeah.
They've turned up, haven't they? But yeah, I know what you mean.
And immensely brave of them to get up on a stage and sort of do a catwalk and that. But the words, yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Celine, yeah.
I watched some of the esports yesterday. They have daily Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7 tournaments.
Oh.
But for some reason, the one that I were watching was Tekken Ball. So, the bowling minigame from the Tekken games.
Oh, God. Right, yeah.
I don't know why it made me chuckle, but I was just like...
That's funny.
If you're having beat-em-up esports, why are you concentrating on the bowling minigame?
Yeah. Like doing fishing in Final Fantasy or something.
Yeah, and then they had there's like a group of these, I think they're called shoutcasters, that do all the commentary and stuff. And they were trying to big up people competitively bowling in a video game.
It's a hard job what they're doing there.
Yeah. But they seem to make it as exciting as it could be.
Yeah. Oh, it's a shame it's not as big. For that atmosphere, it's not as busy. Like, you haven't got all the cosplayers and you haven't got that,
Yeah.
It's nice to walk around, but it's a bit, you miss that. Because, a lot of times they have massive sort of presentations all the time, or shows, and it's like...
They're all still here,
right.
which is a really weird thing that everything normal. So I walked past the Eurogamer team. They're here today. There's still the outside Xbox team. They're doing the D&D stuff and everything.
Yeah.
They've got talks on how to do cosplay costumes. One of the talks was said how to literally sew anything, and the girl doing it was dressed like a mage from Final Fantasy, which was one of the best cosplay I've seen here. But she didn't enter the competition. I guess maybe she was unable to. But yeah,
she's a pro.
Yeah. But one thing that did make me laugh while I was here is there's a big booth for Fall Guys. Which you play Fall Guys, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it's like a real. They claimed it was like a real life game of Fall Guys, but I'm probably going to be showing our age a bit here. Do you remember the Travelator from Gladiators?
Yeah.
It's just people running up that, and I've spent a lot of time laughing at people falling down.
So they've got a real Travelator there, and they're just doing that.
Yeah,
great. That's a great idea.
And then they get to the top and collecting crowns, and then there's a leaderboard and stuff.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
Provided a lot of fun.
Good.
Whoa. And there's a lot of people with keyblades, which I guess is because of the news that Sora was going to be in Sora from Kingdom Hearts was going to be in Super Smash Brothers, but there's just so many people walking around with keyblades, and I'm happy for them. They've got the man in Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah. You're happy about that as well, and you're a big Kingdom Hearts person.
I am, but I'm not a massive Super Smash Bros. Player. I've got it, but I'm just absolutely pants at it. That's why I don't play it that much.
Well, Richard, thank you for your in-depth EGX. I like it. It's like I could feel it. I could almost be there. I can hear it. I can hear someone, a werewolf in the background, and a plane. Right, but now also, before we go back to Richard, I interviewed Train Sim World 2 is a game that's very popular, and I think we reviewed it first of all. I think I reviewed it, and they're releasing Train Sim World 2 Rush Hour, the London to Brighton event, and I got a 1-to-1 with Matt, the key development, and here's this interview. Hi Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you, Gareth. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm here with Matt Featherstone, and we're going to be talking about Train Sim World 2. And the first question I was going, what is the new bit of DLC that's coming out? What's the big addition?
So the latest piece of DLC coming out very shortly is the London to Brighton line, the very, very famous line from London Victoria Station down to the seaside station at Brighton. It's a very, very busy line, and I think pretty much known by everyone around a lot of people around the world. It's fantastic.
And so tell us about it, because I'm a Londoner. I live here, so I've done that. I've done that route quite a few times. Tell us about that kind of. It's a very different. Because I played Sim2 and a lot of the DLC. Tell us about the rush hour and the kind of the challenges you had in making that, because it's a lot going on, isn't it?
Well, I mean, above and beyond, even most routes, this one stands out because of the sheer volume and variety of services that you've got on the line. So, standing at the end of platform 18 Victoria or something, and you're looking out there, and there's just constant activity and not small amounts of it. It's it's quite it's a big station, and there's a lot of trains moving in and around, and that theme carries on throughout the entirety of the 50-mile journey between London and Brighton. So I mean, the add-on comes with the Electrostars, the 377 for Southern and the 387 for Gatwick Express. So you've got a variety there of sort of express, not stopping very often traffic, and you've got the more commuter-oriented, stopping frequently traffic. But one of the challenges has been, well, how do you make Victoria actually really busy? Because half of the station is made up by Southeastern, not Southern. So we already have a bunch of Southeastern trains in the game. And so we've been able to create quite a lot of additional AI-only services, which run up and down. It's a small part of the route, but, from Victoria just before they deviate off. So it's on the cusp of it. You look at it like, was it really worth doing? They're there for like a mile. But actually, that mile is what makes Victoria busy. So actually, there's a lot of traffic. You'll see if you drive out of Victoria, you'll have 375s and 465s coming in and out on the other lines. It just really builds that feeling of, right, I'm in the city now. I mean, this line is rush hour all day. The number of passengers obviously goes up and down throughout the day, but trains wise, this line just starts busy and gets busier. So it's difficult to, and that's been one of the challenges. I mean, I think our busiest service mode, this is like the timetable mode where players can be in the world and they can see the trains moving around, drive what they want. Our busiest one today, I think, has had around 1,500 services in total, including all the AI. This one's got over 4,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an order of magnitude. It's a massive leap in terms of complexity, which has brought its own challenges in numerous respects. So the team have had to memory and performance and just the logistics of creating something that complicated.
And how do you go about replicating the routes, stations, the trains? I know you can't. I know it's in detail, but if you take that route, do you do it through photography, video? How do you start?
The short answer to that question is everything. So we will use Google Maps, Google Earth, and that'll give us a really good overview. And actually, with the detail you can get, particularly the street view, it's phenomenal how much you can get from this stuff. So we'll get an idea of where things are at and what we particularly want to look at. We will look for cab ride videos. Again, there are a lot of cab ride videos on places like YouTube, and we'll use those. And cab ride videos tend to be used as much for the scenic. What does the driver see? What are the key things the driver is seeing? But also for for the signaling and the technical aspects. So what are the key things? Where are the signals and what shape are they? Because it's not just the case that all signals are just 4 lights or 3 lights, one on top of the other. They're actually all these different shapes and sizes. And we try to replicate all of that as well, so that if you watch a cab ride and and play the game side by side, there's familiarity there. It's not going to replicate 100% because that couldn't be done, but you will see that all the key elements are there and they're copied correctly. If we can, we'll obviously go out on site. Now, we've done this route previously, many, many years ago in our previous Train Simulator Classic. And so we'd already had a lot of experience with this route. We've got people who live up and down this route who worked on the product. So this is really one of those routes that everybody's been itching to do it, because it's it's a home route for many people. One of our engineers lives in Brighton. The person who did the timetable lives around Croydon area. So there's There's a lot of ownership of this route, if you like, people wanting to do a great job. So we go out and do photo surveys where we can, which is obviously easier in the UK. We'll find anything and everything. But it gets complicated for historic routes where you can't visit it anymore; it's gone. But we'll use books and references. There's a way to solve all of these problems, and it's just about the team have become really good at hunting down everything they can find. Even if it overlaps, it might provide a camera angle, a very subtly different position, which answers the question of, that signal's actually behind that one, or that tree is not in where we thought it was. So it answers all of these questions, so we can try and make it accurate.
Great. Passengers, AI, it's changed, isn't it? It's you've done a lot of enhancements to that. Can you talk through some of that?
Certainly, yeah. So we wanted to make the passengers more present in previous editions, particularly on console. Because of the performance of the console and the bad performance of the passenger system, we'd had to dial the numbers back, so it was actually limited to 20 passengers. That's not across the entirety of the route at all times, but as you arrive at a station, there'll be a maximum of 20 on that station essentially, and that's still not great, particularly when you're trying to replicate rush hour, and that's barely a quiet evening. So one of the things we really wanted to do is how can we make that bigger? So we spent a lot of time optimizing the way that passengers move, the way they're drawn, the way they're rendered, improving some of the internal systems in Unreal so that we can dial up the number, the quantity, without causing more resource usage. So base consoles, the Xbox One and PS4 have gone from 20 to 100, which is where the PC used to be at. And whereas Gen 9, the Gen 9 consoles like the Series X, Series S, PS5, and the PC are now running at 200. So everyone's seeing quite a significant increase in terms of the volume of passengers, which means as you arrive at a platform, you'll see there's more people getting on the train, more people getting off the train. We looked at all of we have these things called curves on the route. Every station has a curve that says at these times of day, how likely is a passenger to get on a train? How likely are they to get off a train? So you can have shifting flow patterns. In the morning, everyone is travelling generally into London. In the evening, they're travelling generally out of London. So we can model those curves. And what we found when we reviewed them is we'd done them too conservatively previously. So we made them all bigger, basically, so that actually you will find many more people get on trains, many more people get off trains. So it feels a lot more active and things are moving around a lot more. The other thing we did was, as you increase the number of passengers, it then becomes even more painfully obvious than it was before. They're all the same. Well, not all the same, but near enough. There wasn't that much variety, and so we wanted to find out what could we do to improve the variety. So one of the things we did was colouring, what we call palletization, which is you might have the same person with a T-shirt. Now, previously, that T-shirt would just be represented in the way the artist originally modelled designed that T-shirt. Well, with palletization, it can now have any one of a large number of different colours. So all of a sudden, that one character with the T-shirt has now 15, 20, 30 different characters, essentially, and they don't look the same. Combine that with different colour trousers, and there's rules applied to this, so you don't get bizarre combinations of colours. Jeans will be various shades that are relevant to jeans, but it means that you get these combinations. We added some additional clothing types as well because we identified that when we reviewed them. It's one of these things you look back and you realise that we've not got any skirts or dresses on any of the female characters. How did we manage that? So we've added skirts and dresses onto some of the female characters, which again contributes to the variety. And all of the new stuff supports the palletization as well. In addition to the colours, we looked at patterns as another way of breaking up the variety, so that now you'll find some of the T-shirt might now have, some of them have stripes, some will be plain, some of them spots, some parts on them, all sorts of different varieties of things that you can find. And you combine all of those things out, actually it becomes much harder to see the same character over and over again, essentially, which really, really helps on that. And then the final thing that really came out as we dialed up the numbers of passengers was they're all walking in a straight line. They really were following this arrow straight line like a marching band. And you could kind of see it before in certain circumstances, but now it was painfully obvious. So the team spent a bunch of time reworking the AI algorithm for the way they choose their path. Previously, it was literally just, I want to go from point A to point B. What's the line between the two? Follow the line. Whereas now they will follow the line, but they will follow approximately the line.
Mm.
Which means that as you see passengers getting off a train and they're all going to the exit, they're kind of milling in a much wider area, filling the space out, which contributes to the whole place feeling a lot busier. So kind of those areas of improvements to the passengers are really about, what we've done to improve that.
Great. Final couple of questions, really. What's the future now for Train Sim World 2? Is it what you look? Can you talk about what you're thinking about next? What would you like to do?
So we announced a while back that we're looking at steam engines. There's been a lot of demand for steam engines as being sort of like obviously missing from a train simulation. Steam engines are really complicated. They work very differently to the diesels and electrics. There's some commonality between the two. In fact, many diesels that you see are actually diesel electric. So there's more commonality even in there. Steam engines are just a different beast entirely, and they're much, much more complicated to simulate. And at the level of detail we go to with our SimuGraph simulation system, it's important to capture all of that nuance. So we're working on that at the moment. We don't have any dates for when that stuff is going to be coming, but it does answer the question people have asked us a lot about: is it coming? The answer is yes. Trying to think what else. There's nothing else that we're really able to talk about at the moment in terms of plans. We do want to sort of follow on from what we've done, and we've beefed up the timetables and beefed up the passengers, and we want to kind of continue that theme. Sort of a number of questions people have asked me about. Is rush hour a one hit thing and then it goes the way it was previously, or do we carry on? And the idea is that really rush hour kind of sets a theme going forward. So wherever it's relevant, obviously, if you do a sleepy backwater branch line, you don't want to see thousands of passengers. But if you're doing another big city line, it should still feel like rush hour. So rush hour is kind of like we've now stepped up the tech, we've stepped up what we can do, and the team have stepped up for it. Yeah. So this is how we want to do it going forwards.
Do you know what my vision is for Train Sim World? And this would probably happen in about the 10 years time when the consoles can do it, is that you can go anywhere in England and pick up any line and any train and go, anywhere.
Totally. I want to go anywhere in the world, frankly.
Go.
It's an amazing thing. There's so much variety in terms of what you can do around the world, and so many interesting trains and systems and scenery. Some of the scenery on the railways is beautiful. Yeah. But no, I'm completely with you on that. I'd love that. We need some bigger consoles, pieces.
Massive consoles, yeah. And my last question is, what's your favourite, right? If you had to pick a favourite train journey, have you got one in your head?
So in the real world, rather, or in the game?
In the real world.
In the real world. Yeah. So many years ago now, I was fortunate. I got to go on a rail tour, steam rail tour, from Bristol to Kingswear in the south. And it was just glorious. It was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful ride. And then on the ride back again, and we were actually in the coach right behind the locomotive as well, which was Braunton, which was, so it meant that as well as great views, the sounds were incredible because we were right next to that machine, making all of the noise that steam engines make. It was really amazing. So that's probably one of my favourite journeys that I've ever taken.
Great. Matt, thank you so much. Now, when is the game out? When can we get this on console?
London Brighton comes out on the 7th of October.
7th of October, brilliant. Matt, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and good luck with the new bit of DLC. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, bye. Well, there you go. Very nice guy, very enthusiastic. He knows what he's talking about. Of course, he does as a trained person. Richard, back to you now. Before we go, what games have you been playing apart from being at EGX? Maybe just pick one game each, I think.
You mean apart from all these games I've been playing at EGX?
What have you been doing for the site? What have you been working for?
I have just finished my review for Lost Judgment, which is the sequel to Judgment, the Yakuza spin-off. And I had very mixed feelings on it, if I'm being brutally honest.
Really?
Maybe I'm just being hypercritical, but I didn't. I mean, I say I'm being hypercritical. I've still given it 4 stars, which Neil might read it and be like, "Oh, maybe this should be 3.5."
Right.
But yeah, the story was nowhere near as good as the original Judgment, and it just felt a bit lacking in a lot of places.
Right. I guess that story's got to be really good, isn't it? Because you're, my meager experience of playing it. What the hell is that?
I don't know what that one was. That might have been a werewolf.
Okay. The Mega experience is great. It's pretty much story, isn't it? You know, it's a load of cutscenes, and it's got to entice you, isn't it? Otherwise, you know, why didn't it entice you enough for this time?
I just think so. There was a lot of stuff that the main character was doing that I was like, oh, really? Should he be doing that? So I think in the first game, his decisions and his actions were all morally right, and I didn't have an issue with them. In this one, he's been tasked with investigating bullying that goes on in school, which is fair enough, but then he goes round and starts beating up the kids himself.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
No, that's. I mean, he literally. Some of the kids, he'd met them before. He'd met them the day before, and they were harassing a restaurant owner.
Right.
So he decides to beat them up there, and then he bumps into them again in school, and they start. I mean, in a way, it's self-defense, but yeah. And then one of the teachers is holding some key information, and he just won't leave her alone. It's like he goes to the staff room to find her. He goes to her classroom to find her, and find she's not willing to give the information. And I'm just like, should probably just leave it. And I just had issues with some of his actions this time.
His moral choices, yeah.
Yeah. And then he gets a job at the school, and suddenly he has to stop beating the kids up. It's all a bit weird this time. More weird than normal.
My advice would be, don't give him the job. If he's beating the kids up, you don't give him the job. Doesn't get past the interview stage.
Who's employing this guy in school now?
Wow. Oh, that's a shame. You love your Yakuza. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because they've got the Yakuza main game, then they've got Lost Judgment, and then they've got Like a Dragon, haven't they? Is that because Like a Dragon might be getting a sequel? I think I read this week.
Like a Dragon yesterday, because the two main guys that were responsible for the Yakuza franchise have both left the studio as of probably yesterday or today. And it's sort of in this big announcement, they said, the studio has been going 10 years now, but it's time for a bit of a change. They sort of did say that we're working on a Like a Dragon sequel.
Right.
Which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, because it was a very, very good game. But so the Yakuza games are going to be turn-based combat going forward, whereas if Lost Judgment does get a sequel, that's going to be the brawler-based franchise going forward.
Right. Okay. Good. I have been playing. I've only just started this, so I've been playing lots of games I can't talk about yet. But I've been playing Far Cry 6. I've done a couple of hours in.
I was going to ask you about it.
It's kind of a weird one. I looked at, it's got some good reviews, but it's got people really hating on it as well. I think people have been sort of slagging off the sort of Ubisoft way of making games. It's a formula, and it's kind of like, I'm enjoying myself with it. I think it's really good fun. The Far Cry stuff are always good fun, and I've enjoyed the sort of not so good ones. I enjoyed the BC one. I really had a good time with that. And Far Cry 5 I enjoyed. So I know what they mean about, you kind of know what you're doing. You're settling into this format, this open world. The good news is they've got this whole new weapon system that's quite complicated, but it's like you can really make lots of like attachments. You've got rocket boosters on your back. Your little allies are great. The first hours I've got the crocodile with me. It's brilliant. Just attacking everyone. And it's Far Cry. It's kind of like you go on these missions. They're kind of mad. The combat feels really fun and interesting. But it is that format. And I think, like, you haven't played in Far Cry, have you, Richard?
No.
Oh, you have a great time.
No.
Yeah, so you could go into this and have a great time. I think it'd be fun. I think there is something with Ubisoft when people do feel the games start to look the same, they start to feel the same, But it's the same with the Call of Duty franchise. It's the same with these franchises. The same with Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed have tried to adapt things a bit. It doesn't look. It looks good. It didn't look like a this gen game to me,
Okay.
rather than Assassin's did at the moment. Remember, I'm only early in, and it's really weird because like when you download it, you download the main game, and then you have to download an HD pack. That's another 26 gigs. So they haven't got ray tracing, but they've got a high definition pack for the consoles. So I think it's a game that's really straddling both, the Xbox One. I think it will run probably on the Xbox One the same as it does on the Series X. I don't think there's a major difference. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. So it's good. It's really good. It's good fun. It makes you laugh.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would advise you to get it. Now, before we go, Richard, what are you looking forward to next week?
I don't know whether it's next week or the week after. I suspect it's next week. There's a new game coming out on Switch called Dungeon Encounters, which I'm just going to quickly try and find the name of the guy that's directing it, because he's basically responsible for the active time battle. The active time battle system in Final Fantasy, and he's directed Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IX. His name is Hiroyuki Ito.
Okay, great.
He's devised this new game called Dungeon Encounters, which is basically going back to a turn-based system, but it's proper minimal. So it's just it's just the numbers. It's really basic.
Oh, I've seen this. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, exactly. It looks interesting, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, for me that's ideal. There's none of this extra stuff. I don't even think there's much animation. It's just
really minimal game, isn't it? I've seen it. Yeah. That looks good. I'm laughing because you've got this music in the background. It sounds like in a shopping mall.
It feels like it
well. Back to Blood's out next week. I think that would be good to have a go at.
Oh yeah.
And I think we should all have a go at that at some point. Because the 4-player thing, I think that's on the 12th on Game Pass. Richard, now before you go, what are you going to do for your rest of your couple of hours you're there? What's the next thing you're going to go and do? Shopping?
I think it is going to be shopping time, yeah.
Is that bar still there? There's a really weird bar in the corner of a room.
Oh, I've not seen any.
Maybe I've got this mixed around with another one. But yeah, there was always a little bar that looked like the saddest bar in the world. There's always one person sitting there looking depressed.
I might be in that bar now.
Richard, now if we want to speak to you about EGX or anything else, where can we get hold of you?
I'm on Twitter at Bobo1912.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard, so much for doing this and being the sort of like you're carrying the weight of this podcast with all the information.
It's been good fun.
Great. Thank you so much. And you can find me on GB Brady on Twitter and Twitch. But for now, next week we've got the 100th episode that we've got to think about. But there'll be giveaways, everything else in the episode, so tune in. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the official podcast of TheXboxHub.com. You'll be able to find all the notes of this show at www.TheXboxHub.com/podcast. You can also check out our social feeds on Instagram and Twitter at The Xbox Hub, and search for The Xbox Hub on Facebook.